And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. This is a hybrid event, so we have persons here at the GMSU Secretariat as well as online. And before we get any further, when I sent an email with the link, a poll was also included. It will help to guide the discussion as we move forward. So if you do have the time or you can, please go complete the poll. It's only 3 questions, so we will get into that very soon. And now to introduce my panelists, I would really prefer if you guys have your cameras on, if you can. All right. I have Mr. Andrew Shavir. He is a retail executive and technology strategist with 18 years of leadership experience at Bounty Supermarkets. He oversees multi-location operations, merchandising, execution, supplier partnerships, and performance management. I also have Kishan Ramesh. He is a graphic designer based in Guyana who has been helping several processors meet the requirements for almost a decade. His specialty is creating completely compliant product labels for the Caribbean, North America, and European markets. I have Mr. Sheikh Khan, the founder and CEO of Lanson Label. Lanson Label has been providing services to the Guyanese manufacturers in customizable and flexible packaging for over 7 years. And finally, but certainly not least, Asraf Narain, an accomplished agriculture business development professional with over 21 years experience in Ghana's agricultural sector, currently serves as the Agribusiness Development Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture. His work focuses on bridging the gap between farmers and local, regional, and international markets, with emphasis on expanding Ghana's non-traditional agricultural exports. Good afternoon, guys. Great having you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
All right, so to kick things off, I want to hear from a retail perspective. So I'm going to Andrew first. When a new product is presented to your supermarket, what are the first things you look for before deciding whether it can go on the shelf?
Well, we upon reviewing the product, when the supplier brings it to us, the first thing we look for is it shelf ready, and what the customer appeal would look like, and before even getting into whether the supplier would be able to be reliable with the amount of product that we would need. So when I say shelf readiness, I mean particularly, does the packaging look professional? Does it meet the labeling standards? Does it include the ingredients, expiry dates, barcodes? Make sure the barcodes are scannable, the nutritional information. And when I speak about the customer appeal, it is mostly with if the product will stand out visually, and would communicate early what it is. Many times you see products in the shelves and you have to pick it up to say, hey, what is this? So we want the customers to make quick decisions in the aisles. With regards to supplier reliability, I would say, can the manufacturer maintain consistent supply? We want to make sure we don't just bring something in for 1 week and then it's not available for 4 months after, because there's no value in placing a product on the shelf that disappears after 2 weeks. So we're looking for long-term products and along those lines. I hope that answered it a little bit.
Interesting that you say that, because I know some products may be seasonal. Let's say, pineapple is in a certain season or mango is within a certain season. So what if that manufacturer, might be drifting off from the topic, but what if that manufacturer can only supply within that season?
Right. So in those cases with seasonal items, you could make exceptions like that. I could give you like mangoes, for example. Mangoes, how many times you would go in our supermarkets and find mangoes, so we do make exceptions. In fact, in our database, we have the option to flag items as seasonal, promotional, a whole bunch of different other criteria in our database. We're able to flag items so that the person's preparing the orders, which are the receiving clerks and the managers of the stores, they're able to easily identify, hey, this is a seasonal product, this is a promotional product, this is a product on consignment. This, so they have an idea when they're ordering products, what is expected or what is not expected, which is more important,
All right, just to get an idea of some of the people that are joining us here at this webinar, I'm going to take a look at the poll. And the first question we had asked is, what stage is your product at? The majority said that they're already selling locally, while 17.6 said product developed but not packaged, and 11.8 says they're preparing for supermarkets and exports. I want to put an open question to our panelists. From each of you, what advice would you give to the largest group here? They're already selling locally, and so what advice would you give them with regards to labeling? Let's start with
you want any of us to answer, or
any of you?
Okay, I'll start off. First of all, thank you for hosting this session. I know a lot of people will learn from this and have an idea as to how to go about. For persons who have already had their products in the supermarket and they're selling, I can say quite often when you go and you have a look at the quality of the labeling that it's there, it's very poor. And a lot of times there are telephone numbers that are there, and that's one of the places where I go look for customers to have a look at the kind of label, the quality of label they're doing, and you tend to make a phone call and reach out to them. Alarmingly, a high percentage of those numbers would just ring out. Persons would not return a call, and it's an opportunity calling for you to help their business to be able to lift their product standard. And it's disappointing to know that how high percentage of people are not responding to a phone call. All right. So how can we improve? We can start by there. On your label, whatever number you have listed, when there's a call, when someone is reaching out to you, return a call. That's the first key point. Opportunity is always calling.
Since we're on this topic of, some common mistakes businesses make, Kishan, I want to turn to you too, because you are also a graphic designer. So can you also list some of the mistakes that you've seen on shelves?
Yes. First of all, good afternoon. Happy to be here. And as it pertains to the mistakes that often agro-processors make when selling to supermarkets and the export market, sometimes we have a concept by which the products are actually pretty good. Labeling is substandard. That's one. A big problem is the proportion of the label to the container size. Now, a lot of times when you go into the supermarkets and you have a look at the local products, majority of the times you could actually see and identify that, okay, this product is made locally. And these are products that are also made locally, but they look pretty different. They look a lot more export ready. So one of the concepts we try to promote is that let's look at the containers which you are going to put the product into, and look at the proportion of the label size, the labeling space versus that bottle. You don't want to have an entire 1 liter bottle with just an inch height label wrapped all the way around. It doesn't look premium. It doesn't go pretty well with what the supermarkets are looking for. It's competing for space, and it looks a little bit too undeveloped compared to what others are doing. So that's actually one of the major problems, is that we're not utilizing our label spaces efficiently. To follow up with that, many of the labels do not have all of the information that they should have in the right placement. So depending on the product, depending on your target market, and depending on where you're selling your products in general, there are laws to dictate where and how a product information should be placed and declared to the public. So that's something that often goes very underlooked.
I agree with him. When I first started working at Bounty Farm about 19 years ago, part of my goal was to improve local branding because we had a lot of items in our database without even a barcode, and we had to get down to the point where we were probably starting to design and put on labels for products because it was in our best interest. When you have products with no barcode or no proper labeling, no clear pricing structure, no production capacity, it still looks a bit homemade. It really hampers how you could really monitor your shrinkage sometimes, because things selling on a different code, things cashiers guessing, they're pulling out a book, trying to turn the page to find, you know, what his item code is, all those things take time away too. So I agree with him completely.
Speaking of the actual package and the labels not utilizing the entire, let's say, bottle, Ashraf, I'm turning to you here because I know GMC sometimes helps agro-processors in terms of the containers. Just share some light on that for us. I think you're muted.
On this forum. I really appreciate it. I think it's a timely gesture, especially the emphasis being placed on agro-processing and agro-processors, and in general agriculture in Guyana. So it's a timely thing. Just to reiterate what our three other panelists made mention of about the quality and the importance of panel sizing and so forth on those packaging is absolutely important to adhere to those, because really and truly, if we are not attractive enough in terms of that packaging, consumers will not want to buy your product. We still today got products on the supermarket shelf that got black and white label. We still have products today where people are writing with pens, and it's smudging also with expiry dates and best by dates or batch numbers, and it's not acceptable. So it's very important that you utilize the services within ministries that have incubators that help, and I will touch on that because that's leading to your question specifically. But you have the private industries. I'm seeing Sheik, who I've known a long time. So who operates in the industry. Pixel One is here also. So what happened is that these guys get knowledge. They know what's happened. They know the standards too, so they can guide the relevant processor or processors as to the way they should proceed in doing so. Now, you asked specifically about GMC. Today I'm representing the Ministry of Agriculture. Obviously, GMC, as the marketing arm of the Ministry of Agriculture, falls within the Ministry of Agriculture. Actually, at GMC, there is an agro-processors incubator department section that offers agro-processors a one-stop shop approach, whereby if one is desirous or so to proceed in agro-processing, you may be good at making a sauce, say whatever, let's use pepper sauce for example, which is a common one, and they want to understand what are their entire requirements, or what the requirements are, I should say. They can go into that GMC, and there are officers within that corporation who will sit down with that processor and then walk them through from conceptualizing their product of what they have currently, what possible modification can be done in collaboration with the Guyana School of Agriculture, and then move them on straight on to certification. Certification, be it at the NDC level, the Food and Drug level, the GNBS level, and obviously meeting the labor requirements for each commodity. And in some instance, if that commodity is primarily targeting an export market, what would be those requirements for the export market? So they got a department to that. So I just want to answer it that I'm pretty sure there are some more specific questions you may want to ask, so I don't want to preempt those, but so there is a department that handles that. Yeah. And what I also know, if I may, what I know happens is that because GMC also, they will work along with graphic designers, local graphic designers too, because the processors may come and say, listen, I've been at an advanced stack, let's say with example with Sheik, And then they can reach out and say, this is what we have done. This is the advice we have given the processor. This is what they may need to put on the label. And collaboratively, they work together to achieve that for the processor. Yeah.
Let's get a bit more into packaging and design. So, Sheikh, I want to ask you, when a customer, is standing in front of a shelf with 10 or more products, what psychologically would influence the decision to pick one over the other?
That's a wonderful question. Quite often, color plays an important part of it. Color tends to appeal to the quality of a product, the freshness of a product, the taste of a product, and you'd be surprised as to the limited amount of time. I would say it's less than 5 seconds a customer would potentially have to process if they want to utilize your product or not. Quite often, when a customer use the product, they're quite comfortable with it. They continue to look for the same product within the supermarket shelf. Now, if you're a new product, you have to find initiative, or you have to come with ways of entertaining or getting that customer's attention. And one of them have to look at, or what they should be looking at, is how do you do research your product, research your colors, research your text, and research the layout of your label, what Kishan was mentioning earlier. That plays an important part in you selling your product or getting or capitalizing on that 5 second for a customer.
Tishan, also because I think a lot of people, Sheikh, you can also join in too. They underestimate color. When you look at luxury items, you see black and gold. You look at healthy items, you see a lot of green. So tell me, can you explain how this color psychology influences consumer decisions?
Yes. So different colors, generally we look at colors as just red, green, blue, and various other entities. But on a psychological level, colors do have weight, and they do have a level of alertness by where consumers look at them, and they associate a certain mood or a certain type of feeling or emotion towards a specific product. Now, like you've mentioned, if you are looking, let's take for example, an energy drink brand, you would try to go with bold colors to make a statement to look very energetic. You would tend to use a lot of reds, maybe neon colors, some contrasting colors to really bring this popping design to life. If you are going towards more of a health product, you may choose to use a lot more earthy tones, like different shades of brown, different shades of green. And if you're looking for a more friendly packaging design, like something that is very neutral, you tend to go more with the blue or those different shades of colors. Now, what really goes into the mind of an individual when they look at colors, it has a lot to do with biochemistry, the way how our eyes perceive color, how we add an emotion to it. So you would tend to find that brands would investigate based on their story, based on what their brand represents, and look at the market space to determine what could be the right combination of colors that they can use to stand out, but still tell their story that they want to tell.
I did receive this comment before the webinar, so I'm going to share it with you guys and hear your thoughts on it. So this person said sometimes labels have too many things on them, or too many colors. Maybe the panelists can offer some suggestions. So what is the sweet spot when it comes to this? Like the perfect spot between too boring versus too much. Would also like them to suggest on font size, like for ingredients, what is the smallest size that should be used for readability?
I like to add there. Let me step in. Quite often, one of the challenge customers face is they don't use authentic images, poor quality images when it comes to designing their artwork. And we have to move away from the fact that everybody thinks they're a designer. Every agro-processor thinks they're a designer as long as they have canvas. That does not work for graphics designing. We have seen ton of labels come across our way, and we've had to put them in touch with a graphic designer to help them to go through that initial stages, because when you come to us, you're printing volume. And by printing volume, we want to make sure you get it right the very first time. People do not understand, or agro-processors do not understand rather, that a lot of time they don't study label design and they do not study custom appeal. They just look at the label, try to replicate it, and that's what they're going with. That's not how it works. So I would say customer or agro-processors needs to allow graphics designers to do their job, and it's not their field. Allow these people, the professionals, to do their work.
If if I may also hop in on this particular part. So when we have too much information on a product is typically when we have a small label size. Depending on the size of container that you have, what many individuals may not know is there is a formula to calculate how much of that surface area should be used for the labeling. And within a label itself, there are sections where very specific information should appear. Like, for example, the nutritional chart, the ingredient list, manufacturer information, and barcodes, they are very predetermined and they're expected to be in a certain layout and a certain format. Depending on the size of your label, your printed label, that would actually be the governing factor as to what font size you can use in proportion to that label. So there are formulas that you can use to calculate what is the minimum font size for this size of label, what portion of the label should the product name be in, what should be the minimum font size for the net content of a container. There are all equations to make best use of the space on a product, generally speaking. Sometimes products have too many information, and many of the information that they have sometimes are not validated by appropriate credentials. For example, many organizations and processors may have the term organic listed on a product, but there are, in most cases, it's not an organic product because the traceability for that ingredient or the list of ingredients, you may find an inorganic material within there. So the appropriate way to have these statements on your label, you need to have them verified. I think Mr. Narayan could weigh in more on that.
Generally, there are requirements as it relates to font size and layout of label. As a matter of fact, each panel, there is a rule that one needs to follow. For example, labeling as it relates to CARICOM, including Guyana, follows a CARICOM standard. That standard, you can access it from the Guyana Bureau of Standards, GNBS. They actually produce a manual that you can get from them. It's actually, I believe it's also available on their website that you can download. A Google search also gives this to you. And it speaks about what information requires to be in your front panel, what information needs to be in your side panel, depending on your container, what information needs to be in your back panel, how it should be placed, what should be placed where, the full works, including the font of it. Now, Sheik mentioned graphic designers should do their job and the agro-processors do their job. That's actually true. Many times these guys come with and said, I want this, I want that, this color, and so. And sometimes because you just want to give them what they request, you go ahead and you assist. But really and truly, we should stick to the standards. If you go through the standard, you will understand that my call name for the product cannot be larger, for example, than what the product actual is. So, for example, if you're doing mango achar, mango is the commodity, but achar cannot be bigger than mango because achar is not what you're consuming. Mango is what really and truly you're consuming. So a simple thing like that. Now, for example, another common mistake, or so you'll see that creates a lot of noise too on the label is that on the front panel, they want to put, many times you find mistakes happen, especially with our local scene here. On the front panel, they would want to put everything: brand name, company name, manufacturer, ingredients, or some benefits, some health benefits, some claims that really and truly shouldn't be there, like organic, for example, and it makes it very noisy, and that's a killer for a consumer or somebody who's going to buy. If I can't understand the label and I can't read it, I'm not buying that. So it's important that you follow the standards, and I would urge many people or many agro-processors and potential agro-processors who are listening to get to the Bureau of Standards and buy that, or if it's available for free, get that manual, and you would have a good idea as to what font sizes you think. The graphic designers knows what to do. They know what font sizes, most of them do. And they can even guide them as to how they can proceed with those font sizes. And so, thanks.
I completely endorse that notion, yes, let the graphic designers do their job and we must come to you. However, for many small businesses, they may say, a professional labeling or graphic design may be a bit out of their budget, might be a bit expensive. What can they do to improve their labeling on a small budget?
Okay, let
So
me
if I may go first before you, because
go ahead.
so from a ministry standpoint and from a government standpoint, ministry recognize that there are many small agro-processors who don't have the necessary resources and so forth to start designing and come up with that label and so. So at GMC, there's an incubator system that is available for them that they can access to help with that process. So, for example, if you contact, and Sheik, permit me to use you here, right?
Yes.
If you contact Sheik from inception, there may be a cost to just call the gentleman and to engage him. I'm just using him as an example. That's why I said, can I use you an example? Because to take time and give you an hour to go through your label is an hour from him operating his business, so he needs to compensate, and rightly so. And you can't be, not happy with him to execute that as a business. So here is where the ministry or GMC comes in, whereby you could go into them free of cost, and they can guide you through all that process, possibly do up a mock label, maybe possibly on Canva for true, but it's not a final product. It's what it's gonna come out to be, what it can look like. And then you go to a graphic artist and say a designer and say, look, this is what I have. This is a concept what I got. And most of it is already foolproof. So when you go to the graphic person, it simplifies it. I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
From my perspective, when, like you rightly said, quite often we have customers calling us every single day, all hours of the day. I would say as early as 5 a.m. for labels. And we used to facilitate customers with design. Now we actually stop because of the fact that the amount of changes these customers go through, and we tend to focus more on production rather than label design. We would go through a simple survey. We ask them a couple questions, and then we would know how serious this customer is. Which, if they're going into supermarket, if they're just a one-off customer, and then we would know which graphics designer to hook them up with or to allow them to interact with. Quite often, you would find the situation where it's just a one-off, and because they're seeing a friend or a family doing a particular product and they're making heads with it, they want to do the same and think it's a 1, 2, 3 step forward. It's not that simple, right? So, from those simple conversation, 5 minutes or 3 minutes of a conversation, we can be able to tell if the client is a serious client, and if the client decides to move forward and go to the graphic design that we would identify, we know potentially it's a serious client.
Hey, Sean, I want to bring you in on this too, because as a graphic designer, I'm sure you get approached quite often. So how do you deal with someone with a small budget?
All right. So in my field of work, I do sometimes I have different plans available that individuals could choose one that actually fits their budget or actually fits what they're looking for. There may be cases by which a person reaches out and what they need is not necessarily the most expensive plan. Sometimes they just need the most cost-effective plan. I also do offer payment plans to get it up to a certain standard, but all of my output are focused a lot on getting your product right. So my process is not necessarily that the fastest in Guyana. It's definitely not the cheapest, but it's the one that would save you a lot of money in the long run. Mainly because when I do a project with clients, the first thing we discuss the packaging. And I have a talk with them pertaining to, okay, do you have sales for your project? Are you already in supermarkets? What are the problems that you're having? So when I do a design, I'm not just focusing on what are the design elements that should be in place, but the logistics side. Is this going to be cost effective on them to print the labels? Is this going to be a product that appeals to the supermarket manager that to for them to validate and say, yes, this is well designed. I would love to give this a front shelf piece placement. And most of the time, what ends up happening is that the designs get featured more upfront, and in return, the client ends up making money from the design. So in a way, I would try to say that, in the long run, you're going to make that money back. But to answer your question, there are payment plans and there are tiers of services that you can choose from.
Staying with you, Kishan, I know you help agro-processors with their labels to export. So what are the requirements for the export market in terms of packaging and labeling?
All right. So, I failed to mention there are sometimes I actually do a project for free, as long as the customer shows promise that it's something that they're truly passionate about and it's a unique product. Sometimes I do that. To answer the question about international markets, the first question would be to identify where you're sending your product to. The EU may have a different stat. Well, not may have. They have a different list of requirement versus the United States versus Canada, Australia. Each country or each area tends to have their own set of rules that you have to follow. Most of them tend to overlap, but if you are, let's take for example, if you are going to export to the United States, you have to look at the restrictions of ingredients that you're using in your product, as well as the EU market. There are certain ingredients that one may permit that the other is banned, and vice versa. They have different allergens, they have different ways of declaring ingredients. So before you end up in doing a design, we have to know the designation for that project first, and then we can advise accordingly.
Anyone else would like to add on that?
Well, I'm trying to understand what you consider expensive.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know,
good question.
because if this is a product that you're investing your time, your energy, and everything in, then you must understand that the cost to get it to look like a premium product must be included in that as well, right? And previously, I designed in the past labels for different suppliers and stuff, in an effort to help them out. But with AI now and all these things, they could have a concept of a label within seconds, and is for $3 a month. I don't think that has to be a viable option. You could tell it exactly what you want, the ingredients listed, the nutritional facts, it made in Guyana, and in less than 1 minute, you have a concept that is workable with any designing firm. So we have to consider those things as well. You know, um, I could even test it right now and send you a concept for maybe even tomatoes grown in Guyana and send you a label for a bottle within 1 minute. You know, so we have to at least consider those things now.
All right, so we're gonna go to the poll, back to the poll that we shared earlier. So the second question we asked is, what do you think matters most for shelf success? The majority of people, they've said packaging design. Some people said product quality, pricing, the lowest at only 5%, and branding. So I want to ask you, Andrew, because pricing 5%, does price positioning affect perception of quality? Do you think?
I would say in different markets, yes. And I'll give you an example. If Just for the record, all our prices across our supermarkets are the same, but the clientele differs. So let's say a customer at Bounty Kitty, price doesn't matter. They would walk in, if it has a price, it doesn't have a price, they don't care, they will pick it up. Whether it's expensive, whether it's cheap, it doesn't matter to them. Once it signals trust. Something that looks good, something that they're accustomed to, well known even. But at Bounty Water Street, you have to say price is important to those customers there. And that is more a price driven store where you must have competitive prices listed for various products in there. But for me, I actually think customers make their decision of what they're intending to buy within a few seconds. So I believe clear branding for sure. The visual appeal and design of the product, and I think I mentioned trust as well. So when they pick it up, ingredients must be transparent, and the label look professional, and that increases the level of confidence that the customer would have. So, but with regards to price in Guyana is a price driven market for the most part. I would say yes.
Anyone else would like to comment on this chart?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
If I-
go ahead.
If I can say, I would say, to answer the question of shelf success, I think product packaging and branding is absolutely important, as well as, and this is possibly maybe my order, the product must be packaged well, must be branded properly with proper labeling and designs, attractiveness, if you want to call it, with the best quality, space and position of that commodity on the supermarket shelves is very, very, very important. I don't want to go into scenario about giving examples of supermarkets putting what product where and how. But if you have a very good branded product and it's not positioned at, let's say, for example, an eye level, an arm level of a consumer, that product will not sell.
Absolutely.
Because what happens, it's somewhere that I can't see it, I don't know where it is, I don't have the luxury to go and ask and look for it. So visibility is absolutely important. And the third one for me would be pricing. For me, I believe if your branding packaging is good, it's positioned properly, and then your price is okay, I may tend to go and try a new product. Because that's how I need to start buying a product anyhow. First time it's a new product, and then after that it'll be return purchases. So I just wanted to add that on that particular topic. Thanks.
Interesting point, because Andrew, we might be asking about your secrets, but how do you go ahead determining which shelf or which aisle? Well, of course we know which aisle because you have it categorized, but which shelf to put a specific product?
Let Andrew answer that. He's smiling already.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, right? In my experience, and I appreciate you giving me the answer. In my experience, the first purchase of a new product is driven by packaging. The repeat purchase, which is what you're looking at, is driven by the quality. Now, so those are the two things, right? And we haven't even discussed price yet, right? But I'm not saying price is not important. Price is very important, right? When it comes to shelf placement, that part of our business is highly competitive, So we try to focus our big sellers and the things that we know we want to put emphasis on in hand reach, eye reach, and that kind of stuff. The bigger size products we could put to the bottom because there's more visibility at the bottom of your shelf with bigger products. So if you go into our stores, you'd see in most cases the bigger products are to the bottom of the shelf, because they will still stand out, right? So that we have planograms of how we we like to have our stores displayed, and we try to stick to those, But not everybody gets the option of eye level positioning in your stores, or even arm's reach, because sometimes you gotta bend down and reach for a product that you're looking for. So there's no right and wrong answer to that question. It all depends um, on when that product comes in the store. If we think it fits into this category, where on the shelf it would fit in, we try to place it there.
This is a common complaint from many agro-processors. Can you imagine? And we're not labeling Bounty alone, but other supermarkets tend to put our locally manufactured items on the bottom of shelves. So any advice on what manufacturers can do to work with retailers to, get a better positioning?
If I can contribute here, just to what Andrew have mentioned is, and I thought he would have brought this out, but he didn't. And let me answer part of your question here. Lots of our local processors, I believe, don't merchandise their product as they should in the supermarkets. What you find bigger suppliers do, like maybe the Massey's or the Ansel McCall's or the Banks DIH, the DDL and the Sterling products, and so because of magnitude, they are able to send people to their supermarket, the supermarkets that carries their product, and constantly ensure that the product are always packed, it's up in front, consumer can see it and interact with it. One cannot depend alone on the supermarkets to do that for them. The supermarket is selling, they're busy selling. Yes, they have staff who's doing merchandising and so, but it's important to go around to places that carry your product and constantly try to push your product up in front and pull it in front. And so, even if it's on your private time and you happen to go into a supermarket to buy something else, walk around on the shelf that your product is and just bring it back to the front if it needs to be. If you see only 2 on the shelf and you only supply last week 20, go to Andrew and say, Andrew, you know, my supply last week 20 products. You suppose I only seen 2. You're out. Let me send you let me send you a restock right now. Or where it is, let me restock the shelf for you. So that little bit goes. I know it's a cost, but these are the little fineries that needs to go in to make you stand out, make you successful. Thank you.
Make your brand build.
Absolutely.
And not only that, everything is relationships. You develop a relationship with the merchandisers in the stores, the managers. Those things add value. Might not be tangible at the time, but they add value. You have them looking after your products. You have them, with interest in trying to get your products to sell as well.
I would like to ask a question. If Bounty supermarkets and other supermarkets, why local products are not encouraged to do sampling?
Why are local products not encouraged to be sampled?
To do sampling, yeah, at the supermarket.
There's nothing.
Or may I rephrase it and say that why these supermarkets should be encouraging local agro-processors to engage in sampling with consumers to get them to purchase their product.
Well, we do allow sampling of products.
Yeah.
But it's the supplier to reach out and say, hey, I have these products to be sampled. We could assign it a space in our stores and say, this is the time, this thing, but you have to follow all the necessary hygienic rules. You have to wear gloves. You must have your food handler certificate. You're dealing with food. You're dealing with things people have to taste. So you must come with your documentation and have everything ready. It's not just show up in the store and then have something done. We operate in what we try to make a more and more a first class experience. When you come to shop. So by all means, if they have a proposal to have sampling, if it's a product that we actually sell, then of course we'll have sampling for it. But it's not for me to ask you to have a sampling session. It's for you to come and say, hey, I provide this fudge to your store and I would like to come between the hours of 2 and 3. We will do a mass fudge testing.
Yeah.
We do that. We don't turn down suppliers unless there's another promotional activity happening at that time that we believe we'll get additional value from. Then we could reschedule. But we don't turn down samplings.
Another key aspect as well, um, many agro-processors, well, I wouldn't just say agro-processors, entities in general. Your brand doesn't end with your label. Your brand ends with how you portray yourself in public, how you organize events, what you do for the customers, what you do. It's a partnership between three persons, the processors, the retailers, and the customers directly. Now, often many individuals wait until there's a sampling session to go and do sampling. What you're doing there is creating a competitive environment now that everybody is sampling at the same time. So the consumer has a harder time to actually say, I love your brand stuff and go on with their shopping. If you choose to do a sampling session by yourself on a certain day that you as a manufacturer reach out to a supermarket to have the sampling done, you tend to gain a lot more visibility in the market space because on that day, the consumer is not expecting everybody to show up doing sampling, but you're there. So you become a part of their purchasing decision for that day. And you increase the chances of you developing a customer base with that particular individual or a group of individuals. So it's a three-way relationship between the manufacturers, the retailers, and the customers.
I agree completely as well there too.
Yeah.
We even share on our Facebook social media profiles anything that, like, so if they have a design of local products or locally thing, we are very, very, very open to sharing social media on our social media platforms as well. You might not know this, but 2 years ago we had an engagement with USAID, and our whole slogan was "Buy local with Bounty," and we promoted, we give what I like to call one of the hottest spots in Georgetown, which is the front of Bounty Water Street, open to local suppliers. So, that we push. In fact, we prefer to keep helping local suppliers to develop their brands. I noticed Govindra would send a message. What would be the reasons that a product is rejected? Products will get rejected due to poor or unclear labels, no barcodes, or you haven't given us a pricing structure, inconsistent supply capability. Um, the package does not look product ready. Many first time producers tend to bring products that are not, the label is not ready, and they bring it to present it to us for us to take it into the system, and then it's not ready. The barcode isn't scanned. It looks more homemade, like what I mentioned earlier. So that would be some of the reasons that we would actually say no to a product. But we would highlight it to the supplier and say, hey, these are the areas that you should improve. And once they improve that, by all means, we take it.
Someone in the chat did ask for your email, so if you are comfortable, you can share your emails in the chat so they can contact you after this webinar. I want to get into our last question that we asked in the poll. And that is regarding challenges. What is your biggest challenge right now? 49.2% said getting into supermarkets. 23.8% said branding and marketing. 19% said meeting compliance requirements, and 14.3% said label design. So apparently it's very hard to get into supermarkets, Andrew.
Well, I'd like to know why. What products are they trying to get into the supermarket? Are you trying to bring pepper sauce in an already saturated pepper sauce environment? Are you trying to bring green seasoning into already saturated green seasoning? Are you trying to bring peanut butter into already saturated peanut butter industry? So those are all questions that they need to ask themselves. So we are always willing to take local products no matter what, but they must have branding and labeling standards that we could accept.
Anyone else would like to comment on Which are biggest challenge? Branding, marketing. Don't see much of that.
From a labeling perspective, I can tell you that there are still a large volume of products on the supermarket shelf that have poor labels, extremely poor labels. People may run away with the notion that yeah, we're trying to promote. I'm trying to promote my business. No, we're not trying to promote my business. I'm trying to help Guyanese community lift their product standard altogether. So when we go on the international market, people can say, yes, we are seeing Guyana going places. And I can say quite a lot of time, we have we have seen customers who would have taken that approach, went and get a good design done. They have had significant increase in printing volume. I always refer to a gentleman all the way in Maiconi. He does a particular product called paneer, and that gentleman he's a product of GMC, where they encourage him to go get good label done, invest in his design, and that customer is turned out to be a really good volume based customer, and I can see, he's looking forward to going places, and he's in all the supermarkets. People may run away with the notion that labels are expensive, but it all comes back to where you're going to print and volume. We have seen over the years label costs and average cost to move from $18 all the way down to about $10 to do a compliant label. And that's important.
From what I'm observing here, the majority of the poll would have voted that almost 43% actually, that their biggest problem is getting into supermarkets. But upon a closer inspection of this pie chart, label design, branding, marketing, and meeting compliance regulations, they can all be grouped together, which
Yeah.
can be the main reason why it's not getting into supermarket. It's either because of the label design not being in a very attractive design, it hasn't meet compliance, or branding and marketing is not present. For example, again, your brand doesn't end with the label. There's a lot more you have to put into the brand to allow this relationship to develop, and eventually supermarkets will get into it.
I agree.
If I can just add quickly, to maybe help that 42% to come down. And I'm happy that my colleague grouped the other three areas to say that this is the reason. Looking at the participants here, I'm seeing some well-established known agro-processors and people in that there who've full of skill sets and knowledge as what needs to be done. And there are people who I don't know, so I can't say. Maybe they are budding agro-processors or potential agro-processors. Now, it's important to go back to what the rules are and the entities that are within government for you to work through so that you can get the prerequisite guidance. So, for example, because Guyana allows a cottage industry to start as an agro-processor, you start at your NDC level, go to the NDC. I have my kitchen. I want my kitchen to be used as to produce ketchup or pepper sauce. What do I need? Okay, I need a sanitary health officer to come and inspect that. This is okay. Okay, the sanitary company give you some advice and you don't have your certificate or approval yet. You just say that this can work. They give you that clearance. Engage the Food and Drug Administration to come and have a look that your kitchen meet their minimum standards. I'm not talking about maximum here. Because the minimum standards gets you into any supermarket locally. So what the minimum standard? You get your food handler certificate as the individual. Once you get all of that, obviously, and you follow the guidelines that prescribe, I just mentioned the packaging and labeling from the Bureau of Standards, and GMC can work with you to help you. You will be able to overcome your 23%, your 24%, your 19%. And when you go to Andrew and you say, here is a pepper sauce, even though it's saturated, But because it's the packaging and the labeling is done by Pixel One and Chic, because you've meet the food and drug requirements, because you're providing all the necessary documentation, he is now in a hard place with his team to make a decision. And more so, GMC, through the guy in a shop, will work with you to work with the supermarkets, existing supermarkets, the Bounty, the Massey, and you name all the big ones, the Survival, the Matais, and so on, handheld you with a meeting with them to say, look, here is a new product. Can you please take this product and assist us? And I can recall, as far as I can remember, most times it's a success story into their product, into their supermarket. So I believe we should go back to the basics, start from that grassroots level and work upwards. And you will find the answers are right there to get your product into the supermarket. I can recall right at Bounty, even though I was knowledgeable about it, I failed to get a particular product that I was doing from a private standpoint because of, guess what? We decided to use a local company to give us barcode. I'm not beating up a local company here. But when we scan the product, Bounty is showing me it's a chocolate from the Dominican Republic. And I don't know if it was Andrew or it was Miss DeGroot who is saying, Ashraf, what are you doing here? How am I getting this product in the supermarket? What are you doing? You're selling chocolate or you're selling a particular other brand? I said, I don't know, but this is what we paid for. How much you paid for it? I paid $1,000. She said, see where your problem is, right? So she then said, listen, go to this place, go to this way, and you will get the right barcode. In less than 2 weeks, I was able to get a barcode for that product. And today, Bounty asked me on to today, and I don't work for that company anymore. Sometimes I get a phone call, they want the product, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, here, you have to call this number. So we just need to follow the rules, I believe, and we can cross that hurdle. Thanks.
If I can add to that as well, I did notice an individual would have posted that their design was done by GMC and was accepted by numerous supermarkets and pharmacies, but it was rejected by a particular supermarket. Now, one key thing that tends to happen, and this would be something that supermarkets generally look for, as we're on the topic of barcodes. The way that the barcode works is not something that everyone may have a general knowledge of. So when you point a scanner to a barcode, it reads the number from a certain sequence and it ends somewhere. You can obtain official internationally regulated barcodes, and everyone can take note if they're listening, gs1.org. When you purchase a barcode from GS1, you get to register your company and you purchase a unique barcode for your business. Now, you can use that barcode for your label, for your product. The barcode has to be of a certain size and it has to be a certain level of visibility. Sometimes what tends to happen, if you stretch a barcode away from its proportions, it does not read accurately on a scanner. And that may actually lead a supermarket to say, here's what, a problem is with the barcode itself, that it's not reading. And one of the reasons why it's not reading, it's not proportioned correctly. So these are things we have to go back to the rule book and look as to what are the size that the barcode needs to be, how do you obtain one, and what colors they need to be printed. Barcodes have rules to follow, and those are important for when you enter the supermarket, because if it doesn't scan, your product gets rejected right there.
Actually, before we do any kind of printing, one of the things we do is to verify barcodes and to make sure that they're scanning and to make sure that they're not stretched, they're elongated, they're positioned well before we send any job. We always prepare a pre-press file, send it to the customer, let them see what their final product would look like before we execute a major print.
Well, thank
There's
you guys.
also a lot of other things at play too, eh? If we reject a product, so let's look at that here product that you were talking about, right? If it's too small, theft is real. You understand? It will be stolen more than it will be give us the opportunity to sell, and we have experiences with that. You know, if you look at our pharmaceutical line, it's very, very limited. You know, we don't have a wide pharmaceutical line. We focus on groceries, right? And if you look, let's take Bounty Grove, for example, Bounty Registry, they have pharmacies right next door, you know? So we pick the products. So that it's not just about um, the product not looking nice. In our instance, we have reasons behind why we would say no to a product as well, you know?
Okay, so didn't share this with my panelists before because I want guys to have fresh eyes on what I'm about to present to you. I'm not a graphic designer, so I asked AI to show me some bad and good labels, just so we can get some practical knowledge for our attendees, and you can tell me what is wrong and what is good with these packages. So this one right here, the one on the left, they said it's a good label, and the one on the right, a bad one. What are your thoughts on this?
As a designer, the first thing that I see is that you could actually see a clear indication of what the brand is on the left. On the right, it looks like a generic product with no amount of consideration placed on the layout as to how it would appear to the customer. Then we have more colors, and if you look at even to the consistency of the product itself, you would notice that the pineapple juice on the left has a more visual striking appearance in color compared to the one on the right. So that is from a design perspective.
All right. So from a product's perspective, the one on the right looks like natural pineapple, because it's kind of brownish and crushing it can cause that. The one on the left looks like a professional did it. It looks really good. And the one on the right looks like, I'm just trying to get this thing out of my hands and I got some excess pineapple and I want to put it on the shelf. But then again, the one on the left, so each one of these have queries. So if you're entering a specific market, tropical delight is not what you're drinking. You're drinking pineapple juice. So tropical delight cannot be more prevalent than pineapple juice. So therefore, the one on the right is correct because the one on the right is a pineapple drink in this case, which is what you're consuming. So, for example, if you're going to be having your product target in the US market, it's very clear that the commodity, the item that is of consumption must be the most dominant on your front panel. So it all depends on the market you think. In the Guyanese market, really and truly doesn't matter because it's there. But certain countries, that needs to be very much so. Now, the one on the left, like I said, well, professional done is saying 100% natural juice. This one is saying pineapple drink. A pineapple drink can be mixed with some other commodities. So therefore, that's why they say a drink also. So then that's why they omit 100% juice. So it's very debatable. And I don't know who is saying which one is right or wrong here, but I'm not making a choice, my friends.
Yeah,
All right, how about
I agree on that part. There are pros and cons to each design, but on a design
Yes.
perspective, many might go for the one on the left.
I will
But
too.
from many individuals who research, they can be either of the two.
How
From a
about this?
printing perspective, I'll tell you this here. Because we are fully digital, we charge consumer based on ink drops. The one on the left will be cheaper to produce
Because of the cover.
because of the color.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, how about this next item? What do you guys think?
Well, you could tell that the one on the left is more expensive.
Exactly.
You know?
The one on the left also looks or appears to be a lot, without the terminology on it, it seems to be from an ethically sourced organic plantation compared to the one on the right. But that isn't in stone. That's just based on the green that you see on the left.
I
The
would
one
have
that we
Additionally,
have,
I also believe the one on the left will carry a fetch a premium price line for truth
I
because
was just about to say that.
you're mentioning it. Forget, I mean, the branding and the packaging is amazing how it looks compared to the one on the right. You say coffee, ground coffee. You mix in 10 different coffee and give me as ground coffee. This is very specific, very targeted. The brand name, what kind of coffee it is, premium coffee, and so forth. Yeah. So if I'm buying, I'm going for this one, even though it may be $100 more. I will go for this one because of who am I and what I want to drink. Compared to the one on the left. So these are very good examples to show what can differentiate your product from a one that A, don't have enough information and is not well presented.
There's also a good amount of emphasis placed on the colors. They have a lot of contrasting colors, and if you look on the left, you'd find more tones of gold with different abstract art on it. So it's trying to appear to be a lot more premium. There's where color psychology comes back into play again.
Yeah, they did say the one on the left is the right label and the one on the right is more, basic. This one here, it's supposed to be tomato sauce.
yeah,
Do we really need to justify on
yeah,
this?
exactly, exactly.
All right, so how about this one?
Should really
Well, you
get
see
Ghana
one of
plastic
the
chips in.
That one
look
debated.
at a key element right here is what Mr. Narayan would have mentioned earlier. The barcode is on the front. There's nothing wrong with that, to get that quite clear. But an expectation for a premium product is to have intrusive elements like a barcode be placed at the back.
Correct.
So it's a consideration to make as well.
Yeah, plus it also missing the net content and weight, which are more imperative to be in the front panel and so forth.
Right,
So yeah.
right. The one on the left gives you the brand, it gives you what it is, it appeals to your taste because it says crispy and delicious. It gives you all the ingredients, your certifications across the bottom and your net weight at the front,
And there's earthy tones.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry, the one on the right wants you to explore, so buy it and tell me what you think.
How about this one?
Too cluttered. The one on the right,
Yeah,
too cluttered.
the one on the
Everything
right is what I call marketing noise. Too much, too noisy.
Yeah, too
The
much
one on the
information.
right is an example why AI cannot take a graphic design job,
Yes.
if I may. But it's a good concept, right? The one on the left is definitely more premium looking, the tones of gold, earthy tones. We have the dominant text being strawberry jam. And there's a brand together. And this is a key thing again. If you notice the contour in the design, the label itself, it adds to a visual appeal. And the reason why that tends to happen is because many people associate, when I say people, the audience, the purchasing audience, associate an extra cost to cut a label to that dimension. So obviously, if you're spending more money, your product should be, in theory, a lot more premium compared to the other, as opposed to a straight label. But there's nothing wrong with a straight label.
My final one.
The one on the left is a lot more consistent with a horrible product. The tones are correct, minimal information, and it has
Apart,
some of the stuff declared.
All right. Well, that's it. Just to close, I would like to ask each one on the panel a different question, starting with you, Andrew. What advice would you give to local manufacturers competing with imported brands on the shelf?
focus on your labeling first. Clean and modern labels. That's what we would like. Make sure the colors are bright so that when you put it on the shelf, it can stand out. Right. The durability of the packaging. You got to make sure that it stands out. And have your clear product messaging.
Shay. what packaging trend can businesses or should businesses be paying attention to right now?
A lot of people are moving to pouches, but that's a short-term industry, a short-term move. Um, Sachets are a big thing right now, and it's allows for smaller pack size, and that's a trending thing, and we are working to allow for smaller MOQs. So bigger brands like ketchup, you always see Heinz doing, they would have to run 100,000, a million pieces of a particular brand. It's a product that we're developing. I think Malia's Kitchen, we are working with them as well. Uh, we have some samples for them very shortly for sachets, which would be just 1,000 pieces pack size to be able to focus on target customers. It will help as well for sampling.
Ashraf, one mistake you see often in this industry.
Very good question. You choose the hardest one for me. Honestly, I think shortcuts. I think most people or most individual believe that the shortest way is to bypass the basic requirements or bypass the system, and we end up back when you finish, you can't get your product in the supermarket because you're shortcutting on the packaging, you're shortcutting on the labeling, you're shortcutting on really and truly even your quality of the product. You're not even adding the appropriate or the amount of salts or sugar or preservatives that they need to have on those things from the quality standpoint. And we shortcut and say, listen, I will not go with Sheik because he's expensive. I will go with Ashraf because Ashraf is cheaper to do the labeling, but Ashraf will give you maybe print on a label that is not water-based. And then when it hits the supermarket, because somebody's wiping the shelf and the bottle got a little dust or something of that nature, it wipes off. So, a lot of shortcuts. So what I would advise is follow the rules, follow what is set aside, and you will find your product doing well, and you'll find yourself as a business also doing well. Don't avoid the shortcuts. That's what I can say.
And Kishan, one simple improvement businesses can make immediately.
Label size and information placement. I think label size plays a bigger role in proportion to the container in order to gain more visibility and competing with international products. We have to look at what the international products are doing. They value visibility, they value information, and they know that the product in the container has no intrinsic value to a customer unless they pick it up. So you have to invest on making your product look good, and the other would follow.
Correct.
All right, now I would like to open the floor for questions. Anyone in the room have any questions? And if you're joining online, you can now unmute yourself and ask the panelists any questions. We have one in the room.
Yes, more. I noticed that they mentioned that labels cost should be about $18 for one, coming down to 10. But then I had to do some printing, and each label cost me $40. So I would like to know who can I contact or who can I speak to do some label.
Our information is there in the group. And might I say that quite often people would misprice label quite often. We would have taken that analysis from all the sizes of label that we would have done last year, and then give it a quick summary. Our software would usually do that for us. But I'll tell you this year, a more expensive label is just about $22, and our cheapest label, our lowest price label is actually about $4. So it just goes to show that yes, there are premium brands out there. We do premium labels, and as well, we do products, lower cost labels as well. Our information will be shared in the group, and we'll share it with the GMSA secretariat, and they can always pass it on to you.
Good.
Raised, your hand is raised.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I missed the opening sentence of the shelf, the statement about shelves on how. So what my question is, um, I understand that as a small small products, we may not be able to get the eye level shelves. What do you, how do you position the shelves so that we can get access to, overall, the word is slipping me, overall traction.
Visibility.
Yes, visibility.
One of the easiest way to get that under your control would be to invest in condolas. So a condola is like a small personalized shelf that brands tend to sponsor for the supermarket to have their products on it. So you can purchase condolas. I think there are some fabrication areas within Georgetown. You can purchase from them with your custom branding. And instead of trying to compete with other brands on a shelf for the attention, you can have your own centerpiece, if I should say.
Is that allowed in our supermarkets here? When I say allowed, I mean, is this something so the supermarkets are going to be, comfortable with? Because I mean, sometimes there's a lot of space, there's not a lot of space.
She's right. Grace is right. This and every bit of retail space in the supermarket we try to utilize already. So whilst there are opportunities to rent specific spaces, right? We have, which we do, we rent out specific spaces, but as a 2x2 spot within a supermarket, it has to be available, and those things are booked in advance, and it has to be like a promotional activity, something that would add value.
Mr. Braff, your hand is raised. You can go ahead and unmute. Mr. Braff? All right. In the meantime, I did get a message via the chat from NK Foods, and she is asking me to share her labels just for critique from the panelists. So go ahead. What can she improve on?
You shan't take that. You're a designer.
All right, let's try to put it this way.
Be gentle. Be gentle.
You have to compete with a lot others when it comes to these type of products. Look at what the other brands are delivering and position yourself to have a better presentation. This is a good start, and this, I assume, would actually be a lot more cost-effective method. But there are ways that you could add value to the product by improving upon the packaging style, like sachets, as Lance and Label would have mentioned, and color scheme can play a big part in improving the visibility of this product.
Jake, you want to add anything to this?
I would say from a printer's standpoint, it's not friendly. It's not friendly. And they can do a lot more to improve the appearance of the product. Yeah. Work with if you reach out to us, we'll be able to put you in touch with graphic designers to be able to help you to allow these guys to do their job. This looks like one of those cases where it came off of Canvas.
Did it say labels were done as a test for small shops? So this is just in the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully it can improve and contact one of you guys to upgrade their packaging and labeling. There's another message in the chat. When it comes to supplying supermarkets, are you paying for shelves or are you wholesaling the products to the supermarket? I've always been curious about how that works.
No, you don't pay for shelves. You pay for the additional spots if you want, like to rent out a gondola for a month. You pay for that if you want a specific area that is what we consider rentable space. But if it's a regular product coming into the supermarket, you don't pay for shelf space.
And Nikisa Noel, your hand is raised. Go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can I say something?
Go ahead.
So I'm a designer. I'm a graphic designer. I'm also a videographer. I also do a bit marketing for some other companies. What a lot of agro-processor fail on majority of the time is more of marketing aspect in terms of product awareness, where they're not pushing more online in terms of social media and so on. Because there's more to just supermarkets, yes, selling the product, but a lot of times people fail to realize that people are always on Facebook, they're always on Instagram, they're always on TikTok. You have to learn how to market your product on these social media platforms also. So this is where product awareness is very important. Then it goes into the supermarket, and this is where product visibility is also important. I also work along with companies that deal with the same gondola, where they print these, they construct these things. So yeah, that's very important. So product awareness is very, very, very important. So agro processors, please work on your marketing in terms of your product awareness.
I agree. Any other questions? Online? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. So I am not in this field. My business is not in this line. However, I'm more here for my mother, who produces one of the best seasonings. I would think I could be a little bit biased, but whatever. Early on in our discussion, one of the gentlemen, he said, I cannot remember what the question was, but his response was, you're coming to a market that's already saturated with seasoning, or a market that's already saturated with pepper. It came over a little bit like, you know what, if you're coming with these products, kind of rethink that, because we already have so much of it. It might not, you know what, it may not work out for you. I'm sure that's not what he intended, but that's kind of how it came over to me. I am a firm believer that nobody can do what you do like you do it. So to the gentleman, if you can remember responding to the question or whatever the discussion was, what do I say to my mother? Because I'm trying to convince her, you know what, your product is good enough to get into supermarkets. I can do the business mentor part of it, the labels and all of these kinds. I can get that done for you. I can situate the stuff for you, but you have to be willing to produce at this level, etc. So what do you say to me so that I could convince my mother that this is good, if you don't believe that, you know what, seasoning and pepper and all the things like that might not be the best course of action?
I would say you have to come to me with a solid plan. You can't just come to me with a branded pepper that is poor and then say, well,
A
I
random.
can put in our product. If you have a solid plan, a solid promotional plan, show that this pepper has already been uh, publicized in other stores all over social media. It's getting the traction that it deserves. Come to me to plan. You understand how you intend to fulfill the market needs if you believe that this product will be the number one selling pepper. The number one selling pepper right now is Kelvin's hot sauce, and he's from Guyana. You know, and we have multiple instances of local persons dominating the markets in those categories. But when I have an area, and we can speak about pepper, that I have 47 or 48 different brands of pepper. You understand what I mean by saturated, right?
Most business models in the world are already saturated. But if every person who wants to start a business thinks like that, then nobody will try.
No,
You
I
you
agree
get
with
what
you.
I'm saying?
You must come up
Nobody's
with a
gonna
plan.
try if you give them the it's already saturated. I'm sure if Rihanna thought that the cosmetic industry was saturated, she wouldn't be a billionaire today. So my
Right.
point is, um,
But she had a plan. She had a
of
plan.
course, nobody.
That's
Okay,
So if
okay,
they come
maybe.
with a plan and
Of
they can show
course, we are
these
going
things,
to have a
then yes,
plan.
of course we will consider it.
Hmm. Okay,
The best,
thank you.
take for example, I think what he's trying to say, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but from the experience as well, I'm using Rihanna as the gateway for this explanation, is that her market that she's competing in, Fenty, is very saturated. But what she has is the marketing behind it. And there's where product awareness comes in from our previous participant, in that in order to sell a product that is very saturated, you have to develop the marketing strategy, and that's part of your brand package. It's not, the branding is not just how the label looks, how the product looks, but it's about the emotion that you can channel into your brand to make an individual feel, okay, this is different from this. And one way that you can do that, for example, your seasoning brand, you may want to consider a few options that others are not exploring. Maybe, again, this is in the form of a new way of packaging your product, a way that captures the imagination of a person that's using it. That, okay, we've always seen hot sauce and green seasoning in bottles, and majority of them are almost identical. The bottles are, not the labels. This is an opportunity for you to break the trend by presenting it in a different way. Maybe have a container that's in the shape of a pot. Maybe have a container that's in shape of something fresh, or even a completely different packaging altogether. Maybe even a pouch. So although it's a saturated market, there is an opportunity for you to develop on the brand and the brand awareness to get that product to the level that you envision it to be.
Right. I want to touch on this last question. Why are unique products not able to go on the market even though appearance is not up to par? I think we did answer it kind of when we went to some of the challenges. But if anyone wants to touch on this.
I can see if you hello, you could hear me?
We
Yes,
can hear you, Ashraf.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to that question. If you can permit me 2 minutes, please.
sure.
So I want to give an actual true live Guyanese example of saturation and somewhat a neglect to the product or don't allow a product for the supermarket. And I don't want to say Bounty is guilty of this, but Bounty was also in that pool, including Matais and Massey and Survivor. And the product was coconut oil. And I personally approached all these supermarkets and was told, no, what are we going to do with another oil? There's so much. Who's going to use it? What's going to happen? It's coconut oil. And we had West Sun and olive oil and soya bean and corn oil and sunflower oil. And because it's so much, to put another oil that was on the supermarket at a premium price, that was near 2 times the price that what soya bean was selling for, who's going to buy it? Nobody's going to buy it. And all the supermarkets said, no, it can't work. Fast forward today, they don't have enough to supply. And each one of these supermarkets trimming down the processors now through it for a product. But what that company did was what Andrew alluded to. Come with a plan. And to my colleague, Ms. Noel, I really believe you should work on a plan on how you're going to get these supermarkets to come in or allow you to get into that store or get into that supermarket. They want to see what you're going to offer them. They want to see what differentiate your product from an existing product. And they will give you an opportunity. I can recall supermarkets told that company that, listen, we don't want you to put any product in here. And we said, okay, can you allow me a space in front of your business to do a sampling exercise, a taste sampling exercise in front of your supermarket? And possibly, can you allow me to sell the product at your supermarket at the markup you would normally mark up for? And they obliged, they allow us to do it. We did that. And guess what? At the end of the event, we sold in excess of 50 cases of products in front of that supermarket and went with the proceeds to them and said, here you go, sir. This is your profit. You mark it up. He didn't give it up. He didn't want it. He gave it back to the company. We reinvested it in marketing into the supermarket eventually. But really and truly, I understand both sides. I understand where Miss Noel is coming from. I understand where the supermarket is coming from. But because it's your product or it's our product, what we need to do, the supermarket needs to be persuaded to take in that product, and you will have to come on to them with something. I just wanted to share that. And there are systems you can use to help that. And I'm again opening up that floor. If Ms. Noel, please feel free to get my details from GMSA. Reach out to me and I can ask the Ghana Marketing Corporation to work with your mother to help her to get that commodity into the supermarkets. Thanks.
All right. Well, we have gone over our time a bit. So I think to conclude our session here, I think for agro-processors in particular, make sure you get a good design for your labels. Consult or get a graphic designer to do it. Can't stress that enough. You shouldn't do it yourself, especially if you want to export, you want to be in supermarkets. Get a graphic designer to design your labels. Marketing and branding is very important. Don't fall asleep on that. And meeting compliance requirements. Get in contact with GNBS. We do have the requirements on our chat. So before we end it, make sure you download it and review those compliance because it is necessary for you to take your business to the next level. Thank you once again to our panelists, Andrew, Sheikh, Kishan, Ashraf. You guys were great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a good rest of the week.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here and being able to answer some of these questions. I just want you to know that us as retailers, we want to see local products succeed, even though sometimes it's a balancing act. But we want to see the local products succeed. We want to see them reach an international standard, you know?
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
guys.
folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.